Hi, it's Rob here from Progressive, and I am privileged to be with Roy Inman.
Hi Rob, hi everyone.
Now, you may already know Roy because he's quite a celebrity in the property world. He sits on the chair at property events. He's like the resident expert, and he's got a great story. He's achieved some amazing things at a very young age, and really excited to be sharing his story. Well, Roy will be sharing his story with you. So Roy, let's take you back all those years to when you get started, because I know you've been in property quite a long time. So first of all, how old are you?
32.
32, okay. And you got started in property at what age?
21.
So there's some people going to be watching this going, I wish I started then, but you know, we can only start now. So you started at 21, which is pretty spectacular. So why did you get into property, you know? Why?
There was a few reasons really, ranging from ideas that my father had given me when I was at a younger age, at around 15, 16, that he was looking to do, and due to things that happened in his life, he'd been unable to do it. But a couple of the other reasons really was I was a chef. I'm a chef by trade, and as you know, chefing is quite unsociable hours, hard work.
I don't know a lot about chefing, but I did used to be in the pub business. It's quite unsociable. You know, you're working when everyone else is not, and vice versa. Late nights, blah blah blah.
You can pretty much only have a family and friends within the same industry, because as soon as they're out of that, you work in different hours, different days, and they're off out, you're at work,
right?
And then you get days off in the week because you don't get weekends off, and so it's a bit of a nightmare. And then when I started to think about actually having a family and doing split shifts and going to work when my kids come home from school and getting up and going to work before they get up, missing out on that, I kind of decided, you know what, I need to look at something else. I've always liked Monopoly as a kid. Yeah, I'm the sort of person that will play it once and then play it again.
I bet it was bad playing with you when you were a kid.
Yeah, I'm quite competitive as well, so it was just a lot of different things, but a lot of it was just to be able to have the freedom, the time, to be able to be there and spend it growing up with my children. So. Okay,
so motivated certainly by your family, but also quite a strategic decision. Wasn't something you accidentally fell into. So just sort of tell us, you know, buying your first property, how you got into it. Did you do trainings? Did you just go and kind of get a hands-on thing yourself? Did someone mentor you? Just kind of tell us how you got in the game.
Okay, when I first started I started looking at it in 2001, beginning of 2001. I actually ended up getting a home study course. It was one that came through every month.
Sure.
I got the first one through, read it within about 10 minutes, just phoned up and I said, look, pay everything, just send me the whole thing. Yeah. I read that and was just like, right, okay.
And do you think that was important to you, just sort of doing your training and education?
Yeah, it was quite basic, but it just gave me the idea and the real basic concepts. Everything came from there. Was just me in my split shifts on my day off, going and interviewing solicitors, estate agents, letting agents, surveyors. I didn't want to pay for anything or do anything unless I knew what I was paying for. So I needed to understand what a mining report was and everything, radon reports. Do I need them? Can I do it myself? I needed to know the ins and outs of everything. Back then, internet was on snail pace with a hamster kicking it over on the old dial-up. So that was quite tedious as well. So a lot of the time was either spent on the phone or going in and physically doing it in the area.
So you just basically got involved, self-trained, self-motivated, went and did it.
A lot of it, yeah.
Make any mistakes?
Oh, yeah.
We'll come back to that. Okay, so let's fast forward to now.
Okay.
So how many properties, cash flow, size of your portfolio, rent roll, you know, any JVs you've done, any no money downs, just sort of tell us roughly specifically the portfolio snapshot.
Okay, specific snapshot. I've now got 68 properties worth in excess of £6 million. Rental income monthly, when everything's completely let and ticking nicely, is around the £35,000 a month. Cash flow off of that is around the 10,000, 11,000. If everything again is ticking over nicely. JVs I've done with my father. He's got a 50% share in everything that we've done, which works really well now. I have raised a total of around about $750,000 in JV finance. Half a million of that I actually turned down in the end, just simply because what they were wanting, although they were quite happy to lend me the money, how it fitted in with what I was doing didn't work. So it's nice to say, yeah, I raised that money because I had access to it, but I just made the commercial decision that it wasn't really right for me, so I walked away from it.
What's the equity, do you think, in the portfolio? Did you mention that?
It's probably, depending on what day of the week it is at the moment, probably between 800,000 and $1 million. To be honest, since the market's dropped, I've not really looked at it too much.
Sure.
I've always been about cash flow and always will be. So.
Sure. Okay, so if we rewind back to 2001, when you started, because obviously a lot of people think you need a load of money. Now, we're certainly not here to say, oh, it's really easy and you can buy a house for £1 and blah, blah, blah. You know, it needs money, but it doesn't necessarily need your own money. Did you have a huge savings pot? Did your dad go, here you go, son, there's, you know, an empty check, just fill in what you want?
No. Initially, I was going to do everything on my own. I've been looking at it for about 6 months before I bought my first property. I had I didn't owe anything. I didn't even have to pay for anything because with the chefing, I was working in a gastro pub. I had accommodation above the premises. All I had to pay for was my car, pretty much. That makes me sound like I had a load of money, but with the wages being as bad as they were, it wasn't. But I was able to get a 15 grand personal loan. So what I did is I took out the 15 grand personal loan and was gonna start with that. I had no savings whatsoever. I probably had £1,500, maybe a couple of grand in the bank. And that was when I sort of mentioned to my dad what I'd looked at. I'd taken the idea he'd had back in the sort of 80s, 90s, flipped it and just made it.
Sure. So you were kind of like the JV partner who was going to go and do the work and the knowledge. And what did he bring? Did he, finance any of the deals for you? At
the time, he had 15,000 as well from being made redundant a few years before that he'd not touched. It was just sat in the bank. So he said, right, okay, well, how about I put that in and we go 50-50. Initially, he did come and do a lot of the work on the properties, because he's a bricklayer by trade, and so he came and helped with a lot of that, because with the first property, I actually moved into it and refurbed it myself.
Sure.
So that I could, because I was real baby face then. A week before my 21st birthday, I actually got asked or questioned. I didn't have to prove it, but they asked me for ID for a lottery ticket. You can imagine what builders would have done to me.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I'm sure you're more leveraged now, started hands-on. And I'm sure you'd probably have different advice for people if they're starting now based on how you started 10 years ago plus, but we'll get to that in a minute. So you're there, you've got 68 properties, and we met a few years ago at an event, and you decided to join the progressive community. Now, a lot of people might think, well, surely, training, education, mentorship community is for people just starting out, not necessarily people who are already experts. So why did you decide to get involved with Progressive? What is the Progressive community about? What are you getting out of it? And what will you get out of it in the future? And maybe not just about buying property.
For me, I think it's very much about being around like-minded people, trying to help and educate other people so that they don't necessarily make the same mistakes. But a lot of the time, what I get from it as well is the fact that by them asking me questions, it makes me think about things. And then when I feed back to them the advice I give, sometimes it does make me think, you know what, you should be doing that. Even though you know it's the whole to know and not to do. And sometimes there's little things that and you just aren't implementing them, and it can help fine-tune things that way.
Sure.
There was also the fact that I wanted to be involved with other bits and pieces. You guys with the business side and the systems was something that I really wanted to get from you guys.
We've on some of the sessions we've been doing, you're working on your letting agency, aren't you?
Yeah, letting agency that we've got.
Going well, is it?
It's going very well. Fully systemised from my point of view now. I have very little to do with that, which is really good.
And how about training, educating, and building your own brand?
Yeah, that's what I'm now looking to get into.
Inman, remember the name.
That's what I'm now getting into a lot more. I've actually got my first event on Thursday evening, which I'm going to be running hopefully once a month up in Manchester. That's going to be geared very much around introduction into property, and obviously showing people what I know and how they can get involved with property. Obviously, there's the mentoring, the mentorship side that I have.
Say obviously, but people watching might not know. So
there's the mentorship program that obviously we run, and I now JV'd with you, and I obviously run that through Progressive. And then there's the courses and things that I do myself on the side with that.
So rewind back to early 2000s, 19, 20, 21. You know, thinking about getting into property, buying a couple of houses would be nice. Did you ever think in 10 years you'd have 68 properties, but not only that, building your brand, training other people, mentorships, setting up your own event, 2 kids, happy families, blah, blah, blah. Did you think it could get that big?
If we start with the family and 2 kids, that wasn't planned until, in the plan, that was partner at 30, kids at 35. So that came before, but it's worked out very, very well. And we're, as long as this doesn't get out too much, trying for our 3rd. If Ruth finds out I've told everyone, she might not be so happy. But we're trying for our 3rd now, which was great.
And have you found, sorry to interrupt, but you've just brought up a couple of interesting things there about family. You're trying for your 3rd. You're probably not sitting there thinking, we better wait a few years because we need more money, things are a struggle. Has it helped with your family life being in property?
Yes, definitely. There's been times where, especially with being up north, where both myself and Ruth are southerners from the south coast. All of our family are down on the south coast. We've got no family support. That network that you have when you've got kids, which you really, really need. So it makes a big difference for me to be able to drop anything I have to at any point.
Because it's not a job.
It's not a job. I only call it a job and work because people don't know what you're talking about.
Or on your mortgage applications, you have to do something, don't you?
But it's to be able to do that and just drop everything. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I say that's Tuesday today. Generally go home early, take Grace to gymnastics now, which I've mentioned to you about a couple of times.
And do you get to spend a lot of time with your children?
At the weekends, I do a lot more now. I've got the opportunity to, and I've got the choice. That's the difference, is I have the choice. I do have some days where most mornings I go out before they even get up. They're very lazy. I'm usually out the door by about 7 o'clock. This morning I think they got up at 8:30, which for a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old is unheard of. So, most days I try and get back to see them before they go to bed. Occasionally I don't. But it swings and roundabouts. That's a choice that I make, and that's for the future.
Okay, so what would you say to people watching this video? Because there's probably going to be people at different stages of their development. Some beginners thinking, I wish I could get those results now. Some people have been doing it a while thinking, I've been doing it a while, I'd like better results, maybe would like more results like you. What would you say, people who, just want more, what would you say?
I'd say, depending on where you are now, it literally comes back to you're always going to get what you've always done. And if you carry on doing the same things, you're always going to stay in the same situation. So if you want more, look at what you've been doing that's got you to where you are now, and then look to change. Decide what you need to do to achieve the extra, to get that next step, and that is then where you need to be going. Because if you're sat on the fence and you've been umming and ahhing for the last 18 months, I guarantee you, if you spend the next 2 years sitting on the fence umming and ahhing, you're going to be in the same situation.
Okay, good point. So when you were a chef, was it a hard decision to get into property? Did you just, put your pots and pans down? Did you do it part-time? Because, some people have got jobs, families like you, but they're not in the fortunate position. Was it a big risk for you back then?
Back then when I first started, it wasn't so much a risk because it was just me. I had no bills to pay apart from the 15 grand loan.
So what if someone does have all of that? What would you say?
Just take it at your own pace, however you feel comfortable. Even if you want to get into property, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave your job. If you love your job and you enjoy your job, invest in property for your pension, for the long term, for an investment basis.
Sure.
You don't necessarily have to leave your job, just structure things and have your strategy so that it works that way. I spent 5 years, 6 years doing it part-time.
Yeah.
I love chefing, I love cooking.
Mrs. must be happy with you then.
She's not, that's the thing. She got with me thinking, oh, I'm always going to have these great meals, but I hardly ever do it. I miss doing it. So it's something I want to spend more time doing at home. But I do enjoy it. I love service. I love the speed of it. But I ended up making a decision of which way.
And how long have you been full-time in property?
Since end of 2006.
Okay, so that's what, 6 years? Okay, and how many properties did you have when you went full-time?
19, I think.
19.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So one more thing. What would you say? One final Roy-ism.
Royism. I'll give you two, and the only reason I give two, one is if it's something that you want to do, you know that it's the way you want to go, and you're umming and ahhing about doing it, or you want to go to the next level, step up, do it, just get on with it, do it. Everyone makes mistakes. It doesn't matter how much training you do, it doesn't matter who you know, what you know, you're going to make a mistake. Get over it.
Sure.
Just learn from it and take that forward. The other one that I've come up with lately, and this is one that I've got a couple of people quoting me on now, someone picked up on me saying it, was if you think you have no money to get into property, the only place you have no money is in your head. And that's what someone picked me saying lately. So it's kind of been a Royism.
Well, you better go and trademark that one.
So
then.
yeah, I'm on it. So.
Okay. Well, it's been great to spend time with you on the Progressive Sofa, Roy. And is it okay if maybe people wanted to get in touch with you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you have an email address?
Yeah.
Skype, voicemail, IM, Instant Messenger, Yahoo?
You can get me on Facebook. I've got my Facebook page, Roy Inman.
INMAN.
Yeah, that's correct. I've got my personal brand site, royinman.com.
Okay.
You can get me on there. You can contact me through that. Twitter, Facebook, anywhere really.
Okay.
I'm on the Progressive Community Facebook groups. So
Great.
anywhere.
Thanks, Roy.
No problem. Thanks for having me.